There are nights at the FIFA World Cup when 90 minutes simply decide who advances, and then there are nights that become part of football history forever. On a stage built to crown the next world champion, one player once again reminded everyone why he belongs among the greatest names the tournament has ever seen. The clock showed 74 minutes. France had already seized control of the match, but one final burst of brilliance was about to transform a comfortable victory into a historic performance. Michael Olise looked up only once, before threading a perfectly weighted pass through the heart of Sweden's defense. It split the back line with surgical precision. Kylian Mbappé timed his run flawlessly, accelerated into open space, faced the goalkeeper alone, and calmly guided the ball into the far corner. No celebration was needed to explain the importance of the moment. The scoreboard now read France 3, Sweden 0, but the number that truly mattered wasn't on the scoreboard at all. With that finish, Mbappé became the outright leading scorer in FIFA World Cup knockout history, surpassing Brazilian legends Leonidas da Silva and Ronaldo Nazário. On the biggest stage in football, another World Cup record belonged to the French captain. For everyone watching inside MetLife Stadium, it felt like more than another goal. It felt like another chapter in a legacy still being written. Yet if anyone only looked at the final score, they would miss the real story. France did not simply walk onto the pitch and overwhelm Sweden from the opening whistle. For nearly an hour, Sweden refused to play the role of underdog. They challenged France with courage, intensity, and belief. Graham Potter's side never retreated into a defensive shell. Instead, they attacked whenever opportunities appeared, trusting the pace of Victor Gyökeres, Alexander Isak, and Anthony Elanga to expose the space behind France's high defensive line. It was an ambitious strategy, perhaps even a dangerous one, but it also made this knockout match far more competitive than many expected. Coming into the round of 32, France looked every bit like one of the favorites to lift the World Cup trophy. They had completed the group stage with victories over Senegal, Iraq, and Norway, becoming the first French side since the 1998 World Cup to win every group match. Even more impressively, Didier Deschamps' squad had scored at least 3 goals in 4 consecutive World Cup matches, putting themselves within reach of a milestone no nation had ever achieved. Confidence surrounded this French team. Their attack had become one of the most feared units in international football. Kylian Mbappé continued to deliver whenever the spotlight grew brightest. Ousmane Dembélé was rediscovering his best form. Michael Olise had emerged as one of the tournament's most creative playmakers, capable of unlocking even the most organized defenses with a single pass. Bradley Barcola added explosive pace and fearless movement on the wing. Behind them stood an experienced defensive core anchored by Mike Maignan, William Saliba, Dayot Upamecano, Aurélien Tchouaméni, and Jules Koundé. Every line of the team looked balanced. Every player understood his role. And perhaps most importantly, every performance seemed to make France stronger than the last. Sweden, however, arrived with their own reasons to believe. Although they had finished third in Group F behind the Netherlands and Japan, they had shown throughout the tournament that they possessed enough attacking quality to trouble anyone. Gyökeres entered the knockout stage as Sweden's most influential offensive player, leading the team in both shots and chances created during the group phase. Alexander Isak remained one of Europe's most dangerous forwards. Anthony Elanga had scored in each of Sweden's previous 2 World Cup matches and entered this contest carrying growing confidence. Together, they represented Sweden's hope of producing one of the tournament's biggest surprises. History, however, offered little comfort. This meeting marked the first ever World Cup clash between France and Sweden despite nearly a century of World Cup history. France entered the night with the superior overall record between the two nations, while statistical models overwhelmingly favored Les Bleus to advance. Still, knockout football has never cared much about predictions. One mistake, one moment, one counterattack. That is often all it takes to change everything. Sweden believed they could become the latest team to prove that truth. France believed they were destined for something far greater. Only 90 minutes would decide which belief survived. From the opening whistle, Sweden made one thing perfectly clear. They had not traveled to the knockout stage simply to defend. Instead of retreating into a compact defensive block, They immediately pushed numbers forward whenever possession changed hands. Graham Potter's tactical approach was bold. Every time Sweden recovered the ball, their first instinct was to attack the space behind France's backline. Long passes arrived early and often, asking Viktor Gyökeres, Alexander Isak, and Anthony Elanga to rely on their pace rather than prolonged possession. Only 3 minutes had passed before Sweden produced the first shot of the evening. Gyökeres drifted toward the left channel before slipping a pass inside for Alexander Isak. The striker wasted no time pulling the trigger. Although the effort lacked the power to seriously trouble Mike Maignan, it delivered an important message. Sweden were not intimidated. France, meanwhile, needed several minutes to establish their rhythm. The passing remained patient. The movement was controlled, but the fluid attacking combinations that had defined the group stage were still missing. One player, however, quickly began changing that. Michael Olise. Rather than remaining fixed on the right wing, Olise constantly searched for pockets of space across the pitch. Sometimes he dropped deep between the midfielders to help France progress the ball. Moments later, he appeared wide on the opposite flank, creating overloads before drifting back inside. His movement forced Sweden's defenders into difficult decisions. Follow him and leave space elsewhere. Ignore him and allow one of the tournament's most creative players time on the ball. Little by little, France began controlling possession. Sweden continued looking dangerous whenever they broke forward. Around the 12th minute, another long pass exposed exactly why the Scandinavian side believed they could compete. Anthony Elanga spotted open grass behind William Saliba and exploded into a full sprint. Saliba had started nearly 10 meters closer to the ball. It didn't matter. Elanga's acceleration erased the gap almost instantly, forcing the French defender into a desperate recovery run. The attack did not end with a goal, but it perfectly illustrated Sweden's game plan. Every opportunity would come through speed. Every transition would test France's defensive line. France responded by increasing the tempo. Aurélien Tchouaméni and Adrien Rabiot began winning second balls in midfield, allowing Les Bleus to sustain longer attacking sequences. The pressure slowly increased. Then came Mbappé's first warning. Receiving possession just outside the penalty area, the French captain shifted the ball onto his favored right foot before unleashing a low strike toward goal. Jacob Wydell Zetterstrom stayed composed and gathered comfortably. The save looked routine. The warning certainly was not. Only minutes later, the stadium erupted. Mbappé had finally broken through. Timing his run perfectly, he sprinted behind Sweden's defense, raced clear toward goal, and calmly finished beyond the goalkeeper with the confidence expected from one of football's biggest stars. For a brief moment, France believed the breakthrough had arrived. Then the assistant referee raised the flag. Offside. VAR confirmed the decision. The goal disappeared from the scoreboard almost as quickly as it had appeared. Mbappé smiled briefly before jogging back toward midfield. He knew another opportunity would come. France continued knocking on Sweden's door. Their passing became quicker, their movement sharper. Every attack looked increasingly dangerous. Then came one of the biggest missed chances of the tournament. In the 33rd minute, Jules Koundé surged down the right side before delivering a perfectly weighted low cross across the 6-yard box. Everything had been created exactly as coach's dream. The defender beaten. The goalkeeper stranded. The finish waiting. Mbappé arrived completely unmarked. With the goal seemingly impossible to miss, he struck first time. The ball smashed against the post. For a split second, the entire stadium froze. Instead of celebrating, Mbappé could only watch in disbelief as the chance escaped. Sweden had survived again. Barely 3 minutes later, fortune smiled on them once more. This time, it was Michael Olise who came within inches of producing one of the greatest goals of the tournament. A loose ball bounced invitingly inside the penalty area. Without hesitation, Olise launched himself into an overhead bicycle kick. The technique was flawless. The contact was clean. The goalkeeper stood completely helpless. But once again, the woodwork denied France. The ball crashed against the post before bouncing back into play. Ousmane Dembélé reacted first to the rebound. His follow-up effort drifted agonizingly wide. 2 shots against the frame of the goal. 2 massive escapes for Sweden. Despite surviving those moments, Sweden never abandoned their identity. Rather than retreating under pressure, they immediately answered with attacks of their own. Alexander Isak found space inside the French penalty area, following a cross from the flank, but his contact failed to generate enough power to seriously challenge Mike Maignan. The match had become increasingly open. France possessed greater control. Sweden possessed genuine belief. The only thing missing was a goal. As halftime approached, the pressure became relentless. Wave after wave of French attacks crashed into Sweden's defense. Corners, crosses, shots from distance, quick combinations around the penalty area. It felt inevitable that something would finally give. And just before the referee signaled the end of the first half, it finally happened. France earned another corner. Rather than delivering a traditional cross into the crowded box, Ousmane Dembélé and Michael Olise combined with a cleverly rehearsed short corner routine. The quick exchange disrupted Sweden's defensive shape for just long enough. The ball found Mbappé. 1 touch to settle. A subtle body feint to freeze the defender. Then one explosive right-footed finish, driven beyond Zetterstrom. This time there would be no offside flag. No goalpost. No disappointment. Only celebration. France had finally found the breakthrough they had spent 45 minutes chasing. Mbappé sprinted toward the touchline before embracing Didier Deschamps in an emotional celebration that meant far more than simply taking the lead. After dominating the opening half without reward, France finally carried a deserved 1-0 advantage into the dressing room. The breakthrough had arrived, but as the second half would soon prove, France were only getting started. If the opening 45 minutes belonged to Sweden's resilience, the second half belonged entirely to France's quality. The difference between good teams and championship teams is often measured by how they respond after taking the lead. Some protect the advantage. Others become even more dangerous. France chose the second option. There were no tactical surprises when play resumed. Neither manager made an immediate substitution. Both sides returned with the same starting 11, but the rhythm of the match had completely changed. Sweden could no longer afford patience. Trailing by 1 goal in a knockout match meant they had to commit more players forward. That decision created exactly the kind of space France had been waiting for. The French midfield suddenly found more room to operate. Aurélien Tchouaméni began dictating the tempo with calm authority, winning possession before immediately looking forward, instead of recycling the ball. Every successful interception now carried the possibility of a devastating counterattack. It didn't take long for one of those moments to arrive. Just 9 minutes into the second half, Tchouaméni stepped in to recover possession near the halfway line. Without hesitation, he drove forward, before finding Michael Olise between Sweden's midfield and defensive lines. Olise needed only a single touch. The French playmaker spotted Bradley Barcola making a perfectly timed run beyond the last defender. His through ball slipped cleanly between Sweden's center backs, eliminating the entire defensive line in one elegant movement. Barcola never hesitated. Bursting into the penalty area, he met the pass in full stride before unleashing a powerful finish high into the far corner. Jacob Zetterstrom had no chance. The net rippled. France doubled their advantage. It was a beautiful team goal, but more importantly, it completely changed the emotional landscape of the match. For nearly an hour, Sweden had believed they remained 1 moment away from leveling the score. Now they suddenly faced a 2-goal deficit against one of the deepest squads in international football. Everything became dramatically more difficult. The goal perfectly demonstrated what makes this French side so dangerous. The move began with defensive discipline. It continued through intelligent midfield positioning. It finished with world-class creativity and ruthless execution. Every phase flowed naturally into the next. No wasted touches. No unnecessary risks. Just clinical football. For Michael Olise, the assist represented another reminder that he had quietly become one of the tournament's most influential creators. While Mbappé often claimed the headlines with goals, Olise repeatedly became the player connecting every attacking movement. His awareness of space, his timing, and his decision-making transformed promising situations into genuine scoring opportunities. Sweden understood they could no longer wait. The pressure to respond immediately forced Graham Potter into changes. Fresh legs entered the match as Sweden searched desperately for renewed energy and attack. The substitutions reflected the urgency of the situation. More attacking players arrived, while the team continued trying to exploit the pace of Isak and Gyökeres whenever France left space behind. But the French defense refused to panic. William Saliba and Dayot Upamecano remained calm under pressure, winning aerial duels and closing passing lanes before Sweden could establish any sustained momentum. Whenever Sweden appeared ready to build an attack, France recovered possession almost immediately. Then came another brief pause. Players gathered near the touchline for the scheduled cooling break, as temperatures remained high inside the stadium. The interruption offered both managers an opportunity to reorganize, but it also gave France valuable time to slow the game's rhythm. For Sweden, every passing minute increased the pressure. For France, every passing minute brought them closer to the round of 16. When play resumed, Sweden pushed even higher. It was an understandable decision, but it also became their greatest vulnerability. With defenders advancing toward midfield, enormous spaces began appearing behind the back line. France needed only one accurate pass to expose them. That decisive moment arrived in the 74th minute. Michael Olise collected possession and immediately lifted his head. He recognized Mbappe's movement before anyone else on the field. Without taking an extra touch, he released a perfectly weighted through ball directly into open space. Mbappé accelerated instantly. The timing of the run was flawless. The first touch carried him beyond the final defender. The goalkeeper rushed forward, hoping to narrow the angle. Mbappé remained completely composed. Instead of rushing the finish, he calmly opened his body before guiding the ball into the far corner with his favored right foot. Simple. Clinical. Unstoppable. 3 goals. Game over. As teammates rushed toward their captain, another piece of football history quietly unfolded. This wasn't merely Mbappe's second goal of the evening. It was his 9th goal in FIFA World Cup knockout matches, officially surpassing Brazilian legends Leonidas da Silva and Ronaldo Nazário to become the most prolific knockout scorer the tournament has ever seen. Another record. Another milestone. Another reminder that football's biggest stage continues to bring out the very best in him. The brace also carried immediate significance within the tournament itself. Mbappé climbed to 6 goals in the competition, drawing level with Lionel Messi in the race for the Golden Boot. Meanwhile, Michael Olise's second assist elevated him to 5 assists for the tournament, moving him to the top of the assist standings. One player was finishing the chances. The other was creating them. Together, they had become one of the most dangerous attacking partnerships at the World Cup. With the result beyond doubt, Didier Deschamps finally turned his attention toward the next challenge. One after another, key players left the field. Mbappé received a standing ovation as he was substituted before the closing minutes. Ousmane Dembélé also departed. Lucas Digne and Jules Koundé followed shortly afterward. The message was obvious. France had already done enough. Protecting fresh legs for the next knockout match now mattered more than chasing additional goals. Even with several starters resting, France never lost control. The passing remained confident. The defensive shape stayed organized. Sweden continued searching for a breakthrough, refusing to abandon the fight despite the scoreline, but clear opportunities became increasingly rare. Every French player understood exactly what the final minutes required. No unnecessary risks. No emotional mistakes. Simply manage the game. When the referee finally blew the final whistle, the scoreboard displayed a convincing 3-0 victory. But the score told only part of the story. Sweden had shown courage. They had competed. For long stretches, they had even frustrated one of the tournament favorites. Yet over 90 minutes, France demonstrated something every championship team must possess. Patience when opportunities refuse to come. Composure when chances are missed. Quality when the decisive moments finally arrive. And above all, the ability to turn pressure into history.